Could you tell the audience, because what's so big about this book, The Black Swan? What is The Black Swan?
So The Black Swan, which is a book by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, who is this very smart former derivatives trader and philosopher, is a book that he wrote that's very wonky. It's very hard to read, but the premise is that we're in this interconnected world, and there are these things that happen that nobody can predict. And it's been sort of co-opted in language to say, it's just kind of an unforeseen event that comes out of nowhere. And so when we talk about what happened in 2020, there are all these people who are like, oh, the pandemic, the black swan of the pandemic. And it's like, no, the pandemic wasn't a black swan at all. I mean, people not only had been talking about this forever, but there was a drill that was done in 2019 called Crimson Contagion that was with the federal government, a number of the agencies, like 12 to 14 states, a bunch of local jurisdictions. And by the way, it's like, if you look into it, it's frightening. It's like the exact scenario. It's like, oh, this like bio agent escapes from like a lab in China and comes here. I mean, it's like literally the same. So they literally practiced for this months before this happened. So there's no black swan there. They weren't prepared, but they practiced, they knew. The black swan was the government reaction. Like, we've never seen a point where they're like, okay, there is, an illness that's out here, and we've had obviously, MERS and H1N1 and all kinds of things where they're like, we're just gonna like shut down a large swath of the economy. That, like, nobody predicted that. And I remember, like, early on going on these TV programs, and I was concerned that we were going to have a black swan. I said that on Cheddar. I mentioned that in the book. This was not and like, again, since they were unknown, I didn't know what it was. But this was not like within the realm that, like, oh, if it comes here, like, so much so that when my husband and I were having this discussion in February, like, we're like, okay, like, so like, if let's say this did come here, like, what could you do? Like, what, like, we just, kind of hypothetically, what would you do? And I said, well, like, imagine trying to lock down to get like everyone locked down for 2 weeks. I was like, there's no way you could do it. And he agreed, there's no way you could do it. And in a sense, we were right, because they didn't lock down the economy. They just locked down part of the economy. And that, kind of ended up in this whole picking of winners and losers dynamic that we lay out. But that was the black swan. And by the way, the narrative is not that. The narrative is that there was a full lockdown, that we were all in it together, and, so on and so forth. And that this was like some sort of rational decision. And so that's part of what I try to lay the case out in the book, that that's not what happened, so that you can be armed with the knowledge, because they are gaslighting and they are trying to rewrite history. And if people aren't wise to what the reality of it is, it will happen again, and it will be worse the next time, because we just proved how easy it was to control the population of the United States of America.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that point, because it wasn't the natural phenomena. It was the human not the human interaction. It was the man-made catastrophe, which we made out of it. And if I remember right, the definition was something to the effect of, altering customs and patterns. So, yeah, I was shocked. And as you wrote about the government's reaction and I guess the mandates to close down for some of the population, and you started talking about the emergency use authorization, just how burdensome, I couldn't believe we're in a catastrophe. Speed is of the essence, and they slowed everything down. And the one thing I just want to tell you, I've always studied military strategy, military history. And one thing I've learned over the years is wars are won 20 to 30 years prior to them actually being started. And I'm reading this and I'm thinking, holy shit, this is our government. Look at this. Look how they screwed this up. And when you talk about the levels, not to screw up, but here's the thing: it's not like you said, it wasn't an accident. I think Ayn Rand said best, errors in this kind of judgment are not, errors of this magnitude are not by accident. And you point out that it wasn't just by accident, that it just so happened that there were certain beneficiaries. Oh my God. The care.
Go figure. Right. It just so happened if you were connected and had clout that it was to your benefit, or they found a way to take care of you. And it's interesting that you use that 20 to 30 year time frame, because that's pretty much the time frame that I cover in the book, kind of the last 20-ish, maybe 30 years, to lay out what has happened and how that enabled this war. So like when you're in the military analogy is right there. So like you can take that and apply it directly to the thesis in the book.
If you like this content and want to hear other things like it, head on over to the website at blackmarketleadership.com. That's blackmarketleadership.com. There you can subscribe to the podcast, and you can even create a free members profile